I talk about surrender a lot, and that is a big piece in this. It's surrendering to the outcome, surrendering to the process. The timeline is so tough. You know, I see a lot of my clients are like, this needs to happen yesterday, like so impatient and just, I'm sure you see it too. Their bodies are just like, oh my God, like my cycle's delayed, this and that.
Cortisol and estrogen, they oppose one another.
Yeah.
Well, I am here today with licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in fertility and women's health, Keri Cohen.
Hi.
Keri.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And you are also a fertility success story and in the process of trying to conceive a sibling for your firstborn. So like you're wearing a lot of different hats and you have a positive memory of having done your transfer acupuncture session here at Well People. So it's really coming full circle.
It is.
For you. And we are in the process of starting something with Han O of Mother Bee. So we are really dispensing the gifts, helping you while helping others, helping ourselves and helping everybody else in the community. So I figured it would be a good idea to chat about all of this.
That's a great idea.
Fun stuff. Yeah.
And first of all, so I do want to say to you, I'm so excited to be here. I love being in this space because this is where I had a successful embryo transfer. I came here before my transfer and after to do an acupuncture treatment. And so this place really has like really special meaning to me.
Thank you. Well, you know, that was the goal. And to create a center that calms and feels open at the same time. That's like not pretentious, but just to be like friendly and I don't know. You know, the whole conversation about fertility is heavy. So I wanted some place that would be kind of light because I feel like a little bit of a visionary and I don't think that fertility is going away anytime soon.
Yes.
Right. So we need a place that's open, that's spacious and that
welcoming. It feels calm here.
Thanks. So in hearing you say just that little bit of your story, it makes me think that your path hadn't been so well, there were other transfers before that one.
There was, yeah. You know, I think I'm just going to say like as a little girl, it's like you think, oh, I'm just going to get married and have a baby and that's that.
Happily ever after. Right.
But yeah, my fertility journey, funny enough, started with egg freezing. I don't know if you knew that.
You told me when we met at that event.
Okay. Yeah. It started with egg freezing. I had gone through a breakup in my early 30s and I had my wise gynecologist say, hey, hand me this pamphlet and say, you know, this is 2013. So gosh. It wasn't really popular like it is now. It was a little bit like, okay, this is interesting. Sounds like a very expensive backup plan.
Yeah. And also like the conditions for you to be helping future clients through the fertility journey experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you harvest a lot of eggs?
I did. I froze 20 and being naive to the fertility world at the time, I was like, oh, I'm good.
That's
I have 20 eggs. That's 20 babies. Potential kids. This is, no one really, what was interesting is no one had explained to me how IVF worked. It's like freeze your eggs and you're good.
And at that time, I'm not sure if vitrification freezing process was well known or not. So, I mean, think of an interesting business. Hi, I'm going to sell you something that may or may not work.
Correct. And guess what? It didn't. All of my eggs died.
In the thawing, so was that you put them with a future husband's sperm?
Well, when I got married, we created or tried to create embryos, and I was,
what do you mean? I don't have 20 kids.
I have 0. What the heck? And I had luckily also frozen another. It's a longer story, maybe for an entire another podcast. I did have a second round of eggs that ended up with 1 viable embryo. So out of 40 eggs that were frozen, I got 1 because I had frozen that second set way later. I had been going through IVF stuff and saw. It's a long story, but
well, I think that the people who are listening, they also feel like they have a long story. Yeah. And I think that's comforting to some extent to know that you made it through. A lot of these episodes are women explaining why they didn't give up or how they kept going. So, my goodness, the statistics on that, 1 normal, 1 good one from 40.
Yeah.
And I know you have a daughter, so was she that one?
No. I had 2. So at the end of this journey, right, I ended up with 2 viable embryos. And I have her, and I'm in the process of trying to transfer the last embryo. And what's interesting in this process too is I feel like I've gone through so many different phases of it. And now I'm in this place of secondary infertility, which also isn't talked about as much because there's this kind of overarching societal
insinuation.
Well, also just you should be grateful you have 1. So it's the space of kind of not feeling allowed to want. Yes, thank you. Want more.
Yeah, how dare you?
Yeah, it's well, you have 1, so you're okay. You're great, and yes, I'm internally grateful for that 1. But I think there's more conversation around that should happen around secondary infertility too.
For sure, yeah. So, in the context of all the different things that you can align with your clients or have the clients recognize, oh, she's been there, she's done that.
Yes.
So many.
So helpful because when I was going through the process, it was exhausting explaining to my friends about shots and embryo grading and what a hysteroscopy is and all of the things. And then I didn't want to go into my therapist and have to explain the same things. Right? It was. I was already exhausted.
With a fertility specific counselor, or there wasn't one at the time?
There really at that time, and there still isn't. There still is not a lot out there. It's
yeah. I feel like you are providing so much, and the fact that you're transparent to I don't know if you let many of your clients know, but I know that it makes it feel like, oh, this is a human being sitting here and we're working through something when they know that, oh, you aren't just living happily ever after. It makes it kind of more realistic and less glamorized and more relatable for sure.
Yeah.
So back to your story. You had 40 eggs. Somehow you got a second normal. Somehow you got 2 normals to work with, but would you like to say anything else more about your unfolding story and how it led to your little girl?
Yeah, I mean, I went through years and years of this process, and I really felt like my life was on hold, and some people's stories are like, their IVF journey is shorter, some are longer, but mine was quite long. And so in that time, it allowed me to kind of come to the place where I am as a therapist and see the gaps and where women really need to be held and supported in this journey. And I think that's kind of how I got called into this profession. But I knew I've been a therapist for over a decade at this point. but I had to get through my own journey into the other side where I was removed from it, and then I can serve and help other women.
Yeah, it's very hard to know what to say when inside you're struggling yourself, right? So were you already a therapist?
I was. So I've been a therapist for over a decade, but I was working with a different population at the time.
But when you were going through your
I was a therapist.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wasn't working in infertility.
Because you froze the eggs in 2013, but then
I visited IVF, and
clients.
I started IVF back, I think, in 2018. And then on and off was on that journey until 2023 when I had my baby.
Well, so you have made the distinction, or made us aware of the distinction that there's like the validating psychotherapy session, like, oh, how does that feel to be frustrated month after month, or kind of traditional modalities, right? That could take a very long time to help that particular client. Is that why you started steering towards fertility coaching, to be a little more proactive with these clients?
Yeah. I think that to be a little more directional. So as a traditional psychotherapist, we're trained to kind of just, let the client have their space, and it's not as directional with, obviously there are tools and toolboxes and tips in traditional psychotherapy, but with the coaching piece that I do, it's more along the lines, I wear all hats a little bit. It's like, okay, did you ask your doctor about this, or have you thought about this? If a client wants it, not every client wants that. And then I'll step back and say, okay, we'll kind of go along on this lane.
Like one just wants to be listened to, or have an outlet with somebody who they can talk to without being interrupted.
And they're like, I feel good with all my choices. I feel good with not, some clients, they have, big decisions sometimes. It's like, do I do this endometriosis surgery? Do I take Lupron? Do I not? And they just want a third person to kind of bounce around those ideas with. And so I can be that sounding board outside of their husband, and that's helpful. And then give them tools like around the 2-week wait. And a lot of these women have trauma. Sometimes when patient or clients come to see me, they're, they've gone through so much that's the point where they're coming to see me, and just going to get an ultrasound brings up a lot of stuff. It's triggering. So we talk about the ways in which we can ground and, come back to ourself in those appointments, have autonomy, create boundaries with friends. Because so much, as you know, so much comes up in this process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Friends, family, inner stuff.
That's where all these spiritual lessons, the spiritual muscles and silver linings, if you will, that stuff comes through. What did you call them? Soul lessons.
I call them soul lessons.
That really resonates.
Oh, I think that we're on this earth as souls to grow and expand and learn our lessons, our soul lessons.
I think for right now, this culture may lose some appreciation for soul lessons or the soul component, given how easy it is to fall into social media or what's going on politically or what's going on in their phone and their feeds, right?
Yeah.
And that feels so superficial, but it exposes them to so many other things, like women effortlessly birthing in their living room, or baby bumps all over the place and announcing and trigger warnings, and then other women explaining how hard IVF is. It's just very confusing and loud and easy to just get sucked into what's happening for hours on the phone, instead of maybe like sitting for 5 minutes or 20 minutes quietly thinking, what is this process telling me in particular?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we could get so much more from that 5-minute inner deep dive than you're going to get from 5 hours of scrolling
Mm-hmm.
what other people are doing,
Mm-hmm.
showing up on their feed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, number one, I think social media is not your friend when you're going through IVF,
Yeah, I
because
would agree.
I always tell my clients, you need to mute it or delete it off your phone just while you're going through this process. I like them to have kind of, I say, imagine like a safe, protective, invisible bubble you're going to zip up around yourself during this process. So like the social media stuff has to go, because
Do they comply with that?
some do and some don't. Some have a harder time.
Would you
They're a little
say
addicted.
this
But they're able to like limit it
Uh-huh.
and then mute certain accounts, which is
Mhm.
great.
Uh-huh.
We've made progress. That's
Right. I wish there was some way to study if the ones who did opt out for a while and shut that down, do they get to the ending faster? I just have to wonder.
Yeah.
Because that component that the hypothalamus in the brain is processing stress, right? And it is stressful to see various different things showing up on the feed, and you never know what the algorithm is going to put right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Right? But that hypothalamus is then communicating with the ovaries, and potentially a stressful thing, cortisol.
Yes.
I did have a patient of mine who was pregnant with twins, and then the Israeli bombings in October a few years back. And I saw her jump onto Instagram screaming, and then the next time I saw her for her appointment, one of the twins had gone away, and maybe it was going to go away, but it just sort of felt like she was in such a vulnerable moment that maybe if she was off of her social media for a little while, maybe, just maybe, some of that stress, because that was really like survival is going on, and family members might be hurt over there. And I mean, I don't know how we can protect ourselves and our friends and the women from what's going on in the world. That's definitely a bigger conversation.
But it's an important point, Danica, that you're saying. Thanks. Because, you talk to your clients about what they're consuming in their diet, right?
Yeah.
And it's the other piece of that is like, what are we consuming in our mind? What are we consuming on our phones, on our TVs, in our ears, right? So it's like, we have to be mindful of both.
Yeah.
What you physically consume and ingest, and what you emotionally and mentally consume.
So well said. So true. And back when I was trying to improve my fertility, it was 2001 when I learned that I had bad eggs, and not very many of them, and they were aging too quickly, and in a environment of endometriosis. And of course, like, that puzzle was being put together with my own detective hat on, because I wasn't in a relationship, so I wasn't pursuing fertility with my partner, and I wasn't freezing eggs. So instead I was like just putting my things together, a case, and sorting it out, like, oh, something is inflamed inside of me. And I figured it was probably something I was eating or something that I was thinking. But if I had social media and Instagram, Facebook, and all of that, I might not have cared as much. I might just be so interested in what's going on outside of me, and what other people are doing, and what their experience is. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is very empowering to pull back from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also the aspect about social media there's this compare and despair element, and kind of a lack, right? It's like, oh, this person has a baby. They have 2 babies,
It makes it very glamorous.
Yeah. And like, it can have this kind of lack component of, right. I don't have that. And jealousy and envy and it's a tough place to be when you're not the best.
For sure. For sure. So you meet your women where they are, right? And you get a sense. This one wants to be more actively involved in her process. This one just wants me to listen, right? About what the process is like. How do you address fertility PTSD?
Oh, that's a big one.
I know it is. But I think a lot of our patient population has it.
Yeah, they do. So it's about stabilization, right?
Can you share more? Like, I know what you're talking about, but maybe somebody listening would like to know. How do we get there?
Calming your nervous system, right? Grounding techniques. It's interesting with PTSD, right? Because the framework in which I work is different. Like, I'm not a trauma specialist, which is going to go deeper with you. But when you're in an IVF cycle, I'm not going to go into heavy trauma work. And that's really not my specialty.
And you
right?
see predominantly IVF patients?
All over the gamut. I mean, okay. Primarily IVF, but then it tends to flow into pregnancy, postpartum.
But and then starting point.
Yeah, or people thinking about wanting to get pregnant, because I have a lot of people that have hesitations about getting pregnant, like thoughts they don't want to say to other people, like that they don't want to admit to anyone else, like, I'm scared my body's going to be ruined. Like the kind of vain vanity thing that they're thinking inside, but they don't want to tell anyone.
They'll bring that into
therapy. Bring it into a session.
Yeah.
Am I going to be a bad mother? Is a big one, And then with those clients, I can really do deeper work because they're not in a cycle. Cycling. They haven't even, they're a different place. But yeah, with the trauma stuff, it's grounding techniques. You have to know where their threshold is too.
So grounding techniques means that you help them to anchor themselves inside themselves with breathing, some breath work.
Yeah, being in the now. It's, when you're in a doctor's office, I have a lot of clients, they see the ultrasound machine and they start getting triggered. So it's I sometimes have clients have high frequency energy beads on in the waiting room. And then when they're there, it's 2 feet on the floor, feeling the ground underneath you, focused breathing, looking around the room, being in the, what do you see? Is it a clock? Is it the ceiling? Naming the things.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Gets them into the present moment.
Yeah. Present.
Yeah. Chinese medicine really gets people into the present moment, as there's, the needling sensation.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Even though it's not super painful, it does like stop the chatter, as it's like, oh, I feel that one point throbbing a little.
Yeah.
Or, there are some points for anchoring that are on the sole of the foot. That will be like, okay, we're going to anchor with this point because you're really spinning out of control.
Well, it makes sense. Grounding.
Yeah, exactly.
Feet on the floor. Right?
Yeah, because it's too easy in the fertility space, fertility journey to fly up into the head. Oh, yeah. What if this? What if that? What if this doesn't happen? I don't know what to do. Maybe I should do this. Oh, I'm going to try this now. I'm too tired to do that now.
Yeah. And also the negative thoughts. When you talk about being in your head, it's the like, this is going to fail. When it's usually with a patient that has had failed cycles or they've been through the gamut. And it's like the negative thoughts of like, this cycle is not going to work. And I always say you can hold both thoughts, right? So a tool is, yes, that is true. Like, I'm not going to deny that's not true. This cycle might fail and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
If it does.
Yeah.
Right? Holding both truth.
Holding both truths. I love that. And that is where then the patient has the agency to decide to remember to use that tool to know that both are true, but like maybe to put 51% energy in but at least in this particular cycle, I was more practiced at grounding myself, or I was more practiced at breathing, and I didn't cry as much this time around, or I focused on, well, maybe I'm next in the cycle of my friends getting pregnant. Maybe I am next. Something like that opens up possibility. It's less of a comparing, but kind of like potential possibility thinking, I think, without sounding contrived.
Cautiously optimistic.
Committed detachment too. Committed to the process without like, I'll only be happy if it works. That kind of bracing energetically. But what is that in psychotherapy? Trauma response?
Trauma control. Control is the big one I see. It's like,
you're right.
Especially with type A women that have, overachieved and super successful in their career and life and all this stuff, and then they get to this one piece where they cannot control the outcome. And that is, it's tough for a lot of people. Generally, people love control.
It's particularly hard if being controlling has served you to create an amazing company. And then you are naturally going to bring all that controlling behavior to this process that's totally out of control.
So out of control.
But the more that you try to hold on and control it, the worse it gets.
So I talk about surrender a lot.
Good.
And that is a big piece in this. It's surrendering to the outcome, surrendering to the process. The timeline is so tough. I see a lot of my clients are like, this needs to happen yesterday, like so impatient and just, I'm sure you see it too. Their bodies are just like, oh my God, like my cycle's delayed, this and that. And
right.
Like you just gotta.
Cortisol and estrogen, they oppose one another. So when we have that cortisol, the estrogen isn't going to just freely get you into your divine feminine state. It's the opposite.
And that's why research has shown that if you get your stress down, there has been an uptick in more successful outcomes, and one of the ways you can relieve stress through acupuncture, therapy, different ways to support yourself.
Meditating, controlling things that you can control.
Correct. I say, what can you control?
What
you can't
can
control
you
this.
Control? It would be like, okay, I'll choose to stream a meditation that makes me feel peaceful or makes me feel more fertile. Something like that. Like that neuroplasticity concept of moving the brain neurons onto a new path. That is really, I think, where a lot of this is. I don't really think it starts with the egg or it starts with a bunch of supplements. I think it starts with the thought of what I believe about my fertility journey. And then it's like, well, if you believe it's going to be scary, for sure you're going to see that. If you believe that you're going to make it through, then you're probably going to create that.
100%.
We do have a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Well, thoughts create beliefs.
Say more on that, because I totally agree. But it sounds like something you say a lot.
Well, it's like very simple. It's, my thoughts create my reality, which then shape my beliefs.
What you believe in. What you would take to the grave, kind of like where what you're thinking is truth.
It is.
And it's because that's what you're thinking. So important to think differently about this process if it's not working well. Right. I know when I started saying things like that, people just didn't really get it. They just want to give the power to the MD.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where they're throwing money, and money is energy. So if I'm giving somebody $30,000, well, then I'm going to believe that's going to work. But if we also throw in, you're becoming more fertile over time, If you choose to believe that, then there doesn't have to be as much cortisol, as much inner pressure on the process.
And I also believe not in your timing, which is another control thing, right? It's like, if this is going to work, it's not when you want it to work. It's going to work when it's going to work. And you may not like the answers that come, but so surrender and acceptance in this process, right? So the acceptance of, I'm in a cycle, I'm doing IVF, this is how I am going to try to conceive. Being in acceptance doesn't mean that you like it, but you're flowing, like you said. You're like letting things come, and then having humor in the process. Sorry, I'm jumping all over, but
no,
I'm going back to what you were saying with cortisol and stress, but having humor in this process is so important because it balances your cortisol and stress, and you have to have some lightness.
It changes the energy.
It does. And I always am like, you know what? If you think your journey, you're going to be, in a cycle, like a transfer in, 2 months, tack on 6 months to a year, like just so your expectations are. And I always joke about it. I'm like, well, that'll,
Well,
you think
you're making it normal, sort of. You're making it less arduous. You're making it
less
more
heavy.
Less heavy.
Yeah, and not to trivialize it, because I've been there, but
respect it.
We have to.
But it's very much like life is lifing. That expression, it's a good one.
It's great.
And you don't want to dread the next 3 months.
Yeah.
When that time is going to pass anyway.
Yeah. Just let go and surrender and do your best, right? Some days are harder, some days are easier, but watch comedies, watch uplifting TV shows,
content, consume good content that fortifies you instead of makes you more afraid. When I had my 6-year stint of improving and optimizing my fertility, I didn't really let any of my patients know that I was struggling with really elevated FSH and the different poor outcomes. I didn't let anybody know, my fallopian tube is blocked and I just had endometriosis surgery and found 200 adhesions on my left ovary. I wasn't sharing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was cheerleading the women that were coming in. And I think that hearing myself cheerleading them was me talking to myself.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Because my ears were also in the room.
Yeah.
So as you are navigating secondary infertility, or shall we say, as you are attempting to give your daughter a sibling and or preparing your body to be as optimal as you can control it to be to have that second embryo, that final embryo implanted, I would imagine that it's helping your cause by helping other women.
Of course.
Because then you're hearing, and that's where surrender and acceptance, they really are the full circle moment. And so I'm thinking, Keri, you're saying those things. Your chances are good.
Yeah.
Because it's like, do you see this in your clients of where they're ready? And some of them are faking readiness. Like they come in and they tell you, I don't know if it's spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity, whatever the word is, but they're faking their readiness. Because somebody told them to fake it till they make it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. That is one of the things I hear often, like, because, I would find myself saying, well, if the transfer works.
Saying to yourself.
Or just out loud, like, because in life you have plans. It's like, well, if we're going to go to this wedding or travel, if the transfer works, I won't be able to, But then you have people that are like, when the transfer works. And kind of forcing that positive kind of fake. Like you have to like have that mindset of this is going to work. And this is like manifest it, which I love manifesting, right? But some of that sometimes feels false for IVF women. I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I know for myself, that doesn't ring true because I know the reality of, and just by me thinking, I think some of that helps, right? But I think it's the both. It's I'm putting it out there. I hope this comes to be, doing the best I can, but I'm releasing the outcome.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The loose language that I see most helpful is to train my patients to repeat this mantra. I allow necessary shifts to occur in the highest good of everyone involved.
Love.
Just that word allowing, you know, like you said, I allow both things to be true, but it can also be like, well, I'm allowing it to work if it's meant to. I'm getting out of my way by not being as controlling, by not being as fear-based, by not being as stressed out, by protecting myself however I can, by approaching it with more balance, by forgiving perceived injustices, by making some changes to my diet. Like all of that stuff culminates. And speaking personally, when I did conceive my first one, it was in a situation that wasn't really ideal or what I wanted. It was with a man from my past. And I really just said, if this is how I'm supposed to get to motherhood, I'm just going to allow it to work.
Yeah.
And not knowing like what I'll do next. I'll figure that stuff out later. And to have that be real, I think there was a distinction when I was truly the most ready. Because I remember saying something like to myself, I'm as physically and spiritually fertile as I'm going to get and as I need to be. Kind of like declaring a readiness.
Yeah.
Versus like faking it.
Yeah. And I think for me, the readiness I felt was when I let it go and lived in the surrender piece, because I got to a place where things were not looking good. And, you know, I was doing cycle after cycle and zero embryos. And, you know, I had one embryo frozen. But we all know the statistics and the odds, right? It's like a 60% chance or whatever number. It's not guaranteed. And I had this moment where I truly stepped into like, this really might not happen for me. This may not. And what does that look like?
Exactly.
And surrendering to it and being okay with, you know what, I'm gonna be okay. This, like, I didn't think it was gonna be okay, but I'm truly gonna be okay, and what's going to happen is going to happen. But that was my readiness. For me, personally, everyone's readiness looks different.
Right. Do you use that in some of your sessions? Because I think that there's a very specific moment where they hit that readiness. Yeah. And it's a lot of conversations before that time. But when they are there, they are different.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a process. So you're coaching. You're getting them there. I'm getting them there.
Yeah.
They are getting themselves there. There's so many different things to do and ways to spend the time on the fertility journey. What might be some parting words for you, for anybody listening to this episode?
I would say, like I've said before, build your village of people, right? Keep it small, that are going to really support you through, like a therapist, close friends, family, and advocate for yourself. Really, there are a lot of lessons to be learned in this journey. If you pay attention and you're open and willing to see them, there's this kind of, you know, soul lessons that emerge that are going to take you really into the next phase of your life, whether you're going to come out this, if you allow it, more resilient, better boundaries, knowing yourself better. And I also believe in this journey, you are already a mother, right?
How so? I would want to know. I agree with you, but I want to know how you.
I think that's important to acknowledge, because what you're doing in this process is what a mother does.
She's patient.
Yes.
She's forgiving.
Yes.
She's
loving. She is
nurturing.
Physically going through
an arduous day.
You know, that could be like the birthing process, but you're really doing what the hard work that a mother does. And it's starting before this baby is even born. But that's what a mother is. It's selfless.
Mm-hmm. Like the way she takes care of her pets, her plants.
Correct.
Her friends.
And look for other ways. You know, it's in the interim, while you're in this waiting period, where you're waiting, I think women in this journey, it's not for the faint of heart. And these women really want to be mothers. So in that space, it's the wanting to be a mother, but what are other ways I can mother? How can I mother myself? How can I mother those around me, my, whatever I'm passionate about or my work? So, yeah.
Yeah, mothers are generous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I definitely see that in you. And before your daughter arrived, you must have been stoking some of that.
I got a dog. That was helpful.
It really is.
It was so helpful.
Because it's selfless. Like, you don't have as much time for yourself when you have to play with the dog, walk the dog, feed the dog.
All the things.
Potty training.
Yeah.
Right? Or dog has got sick or something happens, right? Like, it is such a wonderful decision when I see my women getting a pet
but
first.
The definition of mother can be so broad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Essentially, it's I can keep something else alive. I can put my focus onto something besides myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it's abundance, love, and compassion. And nurturing.
Yeah, nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love those parting words. Where would listeners find you for coaching or therapy sessions?
My website, for one. So it's Keri Cohen, LMFT.com, but it's Keri. There's a lot of variations of Keri.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I will put it in the show notes.
And they can also shoot me an email at therapywithkeri@gmail.com. Keri.
Exactly. Keri, thank you so much for being here and for being here for this community and for being transparent with your story. I know how much courage that takes, but I really know how much help it offers the listeners and your clients. When, like, if I knew that if my therapist was going through it at the same time as me, it would make me feel a little less broken. I think I would have been like, wow, this is pretty common. This is really happening right now.
Yeah.
And so what is she doing? What does she like? What does she endorse? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate it, Danica.
Yeah. Good luck with that last embryo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Allowing the necessary shifts,
yes.
right? Allowing it to work.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.